Nearly 4 years since launch, Black Ops 4's biggest mystery has finally been revealed, being the cut campaign for Black Ops 4. We're going to be discussing everything that was supposed to come to Black Ops 4 with this campaign. As in the last 24 hours, a huge Reddit thread posted by Purple Toaster 20 includes over 400 screenshots, design documentation images, and gameplay details we are going to discuss in depth right now. And it even includes some zombie stuff that never made it into the game. Now, it's crazy that when Black Ops 4 released, Treyarch stated many times that a traditional campaign was never planned. According to this leak, the mode was scrapped in early 2018 due to technical issues and the gameplay loop being too repetitive. It was replaced with Blackout Battle Royale, but the original campaign was called Career, which was supposed to take on the format of the campaign, but instead be a 2v2 race to the finish mode. The campaign format would be evolved into a cooperative live service that linked back into the multiplayer, and its specialists, creating a singular narrative universe, would engage fans of multiplayer who wouldn't normally play a campaign. Now, on top of this being a 2v2 experience, you could also play this by yourself and have AI filling in the gaps. Narratively, the career mode would take place during 2070 in a world long after the events of Black Ops 3. So that right there confirms Black Ops 4 was supposed to be a direct sequel to Black Ops 3 like we all assumed it would be, rather than the weird shoehorning where this game is set between Black Ops 2 and 3. Anyway, this game would be set in a global pandemonia alongside several climate disasters, which would heavily diminish the world's resources and be called the Year of Chaos. Most of the weaponry and resources were created prior to the breakdown in technology, with most of the new weaponry in Black Ops 4 being experimental prototypes. According to the post, it's worth noting most of the launch maps, weapons, and specialist designs were created with this exact narrative in mind, with the example of Ruin having a tattoo that wasn't present in Black Ops 3, for example. Because it totally makes sense that Ruin has a tattoo before Black Ops 3, but doesn't have it in Black Ops 3, right? As for the 2v2 aspect of the campaign, the war would take place between two playable factions, the Free People's Army or the World United Nations. You'd pick the preferred faction and compete against the other side by completing different objectives, creating that 2v2 setting. By allowing the player to select the faction, you would essentially have had two separate campaigns to play. The missions, gameplay, story, and characters would all be from the perspective of the faction you aligned with, so they'd be completely different. One of the big points of the game is that you would have a companion that you could choose, which were all the multiplayer specialists that will be locked behind certain factions and would have their own special abilities and narrative arcs, which is perhaps why we have such beautiful cutscenes for every specialist in the HQ. And they stick out like a sore thumb as they look so good compared to what the specialist HQ gameplay is. You could tell they were not made for that mode, and it's because they were actually made for the campaign. Gameplay wise, your companion would fight alongside you. They could be commanded by pressing down on the D-pad, and missions even had side objectives and areas that only certain companions could access. And as you go on, you would build a relationship with your companion that changed dynamically depending on the faction progress. Now, there were no pre-rendered cutscenes planned for Career, only in-game cinematics, and we actually still have the remnants of one posted on YouTube by a company called FXville, who were brought on to help Treyarch with the visual effects in the game, and revealed a sample reel on YouTube which, yeah, contains cutscenes from this cut campaign. And frustratingly enough, they look really good. The Reddit thread goes on to describe 4 different missions which were nearly complete, would have been 100% completed by the time the campaign mode was scrapped. The narrative sounds really interesting because of course it would have had that Black Ops-esque flavor to it. In a similar vein to Black Ops 1, both factions would have a designated handler who is an important character in the story and the gameplay announcer for each side. So a little bit like Hudson in Black Ops 1, just constantly asking Mason, the numbers, Mason, what do they mean? These handler characters were completely new characters we've never heard of in the Black Ops storyline, one of them being called Sawyer, who was the figurehead for the Free People's Army, who had gone off the grid after escaping from the joint, and another one called McQueen, who was a colonel who had strong authority within the World United Nations. Both were fleshed out characters, predominantly being heard during gameplay over a radio and featuring most of the Career story cutscenes. Now, supposedly there were many other characters within the story, some being one-off squad members and others being important enough to have entire story arcs, and of course the previously mentioned companions, which were the specialists. But one of the extremely important characters was someone called the Journalist, who would have several missions focused around him reporting behind enemy lines within the Colombian Free People's Army. This is where things get even crazier, because there was supposedly a side mode called Skirmish, which is essentially a stripped down version of the campaign, allowed you to play missions in public playlists similar to traditional multiplayer. multiplayer. This included a custom game modes creator, which was repurposed into zombies custom mutations. How bizarre is that? Zombies was never supposed to get custom mutations. It was originally supposed to be for campaign. Maybe that explains entirely why custom mutations never really saw much love after launch, as all of us wanted to do Easter eggs with custom mutations. And there were moments throughout the year of Black Ops 4 Zombies where Treyarch custom mutations was supposed to be a thing, where they would have their own official custom mutations playlist where Treyarch would have changed the rules and we'd all be able to experience it. I was supposedly planned to be for this campaign mode, those coming during the seasonal DLCs. In what would have been a franchise first, Treyarch were going to release DLC for campaign throughout the year of Black Ops 4. This was originally planned to be 3 or so new missions, which would have been absolutely insane. Like, just imagine a Call of Duty campaign doing that nowadays. And even more surprisingly enough, this campaign mode also had plans for a sequel to the Nightmares mode from Black Ops 3. If you guys remember Nightmares from Black Ops 3, it was basically an alternate version to the campaign, which introduced zombies as the main enemies for the players to fight against, as well as a new story. It was confusing when it was in Black Ops 3, but apparently a sequel was supposed to be in Black Ops 4, which would take place on the career maps and utilize classic zombies AI alongside special enemies such as Brutus and the Panzer Soldat. And a fair amount of these concepts were apparently moved to Black Ops Cold War's Outbreak mode, which does make a ton of sense. But here's the really gutting part about this, because apparently the Nightmares mode had 2 primary gameplay modes. The first was a 6-player survival experience, which sounds absolutely amazing because Zombies has only had a 4-player survival experience. We've had times where we could push the game up to 8 in Black Ops 2, but it wasn't really designed for it. This would have been really cool. And another gutting thing is apparently the other game mode was similar to Grief, but on a larger scale, with 2 teams attempting to complete objectives as fast as humanly possible. And this also sounds a lot like some cut game modes that we saw from Black Ops 2 Zombies, but clearly Treyarch wanted to be really ambitious with this campaign, really ambitious with the Zombies offering, going far beyond just survival maps, but also jumping into these other experiences as well. The last and what is most shocking to me, as this is Zombies content, is that there was a post-launch roadmap included in this Reddit post that described the roadmap for the DLCs in career. But this also contains the roadmap for Zombies DLCs. And DLC 2 and 3 for Zombies were apparently set in completely different locations to what we got, with DLC 2 being set in Morocco and DLC 3 being set in Russia. Now, DLC 2 is Ancient Evil, which is set in Delphi, Greece, definitely not Morocco, which confirms that we were probably going to get a completely different Chaos map altogether set in Morocco. Then this third DLC set in Russia, well, Alpha Omega was set in Nevada, USA, so we might have gotten another Chaos map set in Russia or an Ether map set in Russia. This roadmap is described as the earliest known internal post-launch roadmap. This could have been from the end of 2016, the start of 2017, and things may have changed, but they were planning different Zombies maps to what we got. And I am super intrigued as to what those could have been, but I don't think we will ever know. But if you want to check out everything about this, I've linked the Reddit thread down in the description, and the Reddit user Purple Toaster 20 is going to be releasing a 30-minute video on his YouTube channel detailing even more information, so I'll link his channel below as well so that you can see that video when he drops it. I hope you guys enjoyed this really interesting video on what could have been for Black Ops 4. If you did enjoy, leave a like, subscribe. I'll catch you next time.